So, a couple of days ago on the channel, I made a video for you all that was titled, "This Crypto Trap is So Obvious That It's Stupid." And what I was talking about in that video was the fact that Bitcoin's price was now reaching the bottom side of its bounce zone as a result of some stupid feud between the president and Elon Musk. And I told you all that I'm not falling for the trap and that I'm under the belief that the very reason as to why crypto was pulling back was because of manipulation. I thought we were seeing blatant manipulation, blatant liquidity hunts happening on the back end that I thought people were getting fooled by and losing as a result of. And so in that video, I told you, listen, I'm not really doing anything. I did do a little bitty purchase right towards the bottom, right around $101.2 thousand, but outside of that, I wasn't doing much because I told you all I'm not buying it, and I'm not going to expect that everything's just going to go haywire as a result of this stupid feud that we were seeing between the president and his bestie. Well, what do you know? Just a couple days later, Bitcoin's price has now rallied all the way back up to $107.8 thousand, leaving a lot of the investors who sold as a result of this feud feeling very, very, ashamed to some degree, feeling a lot of FOMO, feeling a lot of resentment for the market right now. And I just want to talk about what's happening right now, honestly, because there is something happening with Bitcoin's price at this given point that I think is extremely important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of an update as to what is happening right here. We're going to do a bit of a recap as to what's been happening, and I'll tell you what I'm expecting to do in the very near future here, okay? So before yesterday, kind of leading up to yesterday, what many of you know is that we had been tracking this ascending channel. And I told you all, listen, there's an over 80 to 90% chance that Bitcoin breaks to the downside of this ascending channel. And so what we did is we laid out our bounce zones. These are three levels where we expected Bitcoin's price to come down to and try to return back to the upside. Each one getting stronger the lower that you get. Just a couple days later, we saw Bitcoin's price start breaking to the downside, forming a descending channel as it did it. Now, obviously, this is a good sign that one of these bounce zones that, we're going to come down to could very well hold and try to push us upwards. Of course, descending channels are bullish structures. We saw the RSI getting oversold. We saw our Bollinger Bands getting oversold on both the daily and the 4-hour. All of these things saying that we were in a decent spot to try to push upwards. And just a couple days later, we have now seen Bitcoin's price try to rally off of this first bounce zone up towards, of course, $107.8 thousand, now leaving all of the purchases that we did a couple of days ago in the green. It was actually funny. Whenever we did this purchase right here, and then Bitcoin's price fell down, a lot of people were in the comments. I try not to read the comments too much, and or not. I read all of them, but I try not to get annoyed by them. But there were people in the comments that were like, like you purchased right here and Bitcoin's lower, dummy. And now I look at it and I'm like, Bitcoin's up now, dummy. But all of the purchases that we did over the last couple of days, the reinvestment of profits we did. Now we're back in profit, right? And that's the whole game. That's the name of the game. It's just we're just compounding and recompounding all of your gains as much as possible. And so with that in mind, we're kind of in a good spot. Now, I'm not under the belief that this bounce zone is going to hold and it's going to be the thing that gets us to 120K. It's just unusual, right? You usually aren't going to bounce off your first bounce zone and then you use that to absolutely send it up to a new all-time high. I'm not saying it can't. I'm just saying it usually doesn't happen that way. And so I'm not getting super far ahead of myself right now. I'm not getting like super stoked, super pumped, like, whoa, this is the moment where Bitcoin goes to the banana zone, right? I'm not doing all that. I'm just looking at this like, okay, yeah, this is a hell of a move. And it's a good sign that the bulls are stepping in at this bounce zone because it makes it more likely that, especially if we do somehow come down to bounce zone number 2 or 3, it's a very good chance they'll hold, right? Because if bounce zone 1 is putting up a fight like this, imagine what bounce zone 2 or bounce zone 3 can do. And that is why I do, bigger purchases the lower and lower that we get, because of course they become stronger as you get lower. Now, when we zoom in though, kind of getting to the point of today's video, when we do zoom in a little bit, there is something happening right now that will kind of let us know if this bounce zone is going to be the one or not. Because again, it's not usually, bounce zone 1 isn't usually the zone that does hold us up, but there is something happening right now that will make that decision for us. And what that is of course the golden Fibonacci zone. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to clear off this chart for a second so you can see this golden Fibonacci zone clearly, but please remember what this looked like, okay? So when we go ahead and we just get rid of everything, what we can do is we can go and use our Fibonacci tool, and we're going to draw it from our all-time high all the way down to this low that we put in on June 6th, okay? And what that's going to do is it's going to give us a very clear distinguishable range between 107,000.4 and 109.4 thousand that creates the golden zone. Now remember, when you're using your Fibonacci, the golden zone is the most important zone of resistance or support on a crypto's chart in general. So in a moment like this, what that means is that this is now a massive point of resistance. If Bitcoin's price gets rejected by it, oftentimes the rejection will be pretty costly and you will see Bitcoin's price fall pretty low. If, on the other hand, Bitcoin's price can break through it, this usually will open up the door for what are called Fibonacci extensions, which in this instance could mean that Bitcoin, if its price can clear this golden zone, would then open the door for a move to $115,000 to possibly $119,000. So this is obviously a very important level of resistance, one that we should be watching extremely closely. And so when we do pair this with what we are seeing on our chart in general, you can now see the way that this picture is playing out. Bitcoin's price was in an ascending channel. It broke down out of it and came down to its first bounce zone. As it hit its first bounce zone, it created a descending channel and reset some of its short-term indicators and is now pushed up into the golden zone. The golden zone is going to determine whether or not this bounce zone is going to hold or not. If we use the bounce zone to clear this golden zone, we're in a great spot, and this bounce zone might be the only one that we come down to from this ascending channel. But on the other hand, if Bitcoin's price does get rejected by this golden zone, it could be an early signal or sign that this bounce zone is just kind of a temporary one in which we might see the price come back down still as low as $97,000 to $93,000 to retest the next bounce zone. So do you see how I know this looks crazy, right? You see all these lines and all these lines and then these lines and these shapes and colors, right? I know it seems a little crazy, but when you really just, can evaluate it, you can just look at it from more of a zoomed out perspective. The picture is pretty clear. You had the structure, you broke down out of it, you came to the bounce zone, you're using the bounce zone to test a key point of resistance. That's all that's happening. I know it seems intimidating when you look at charts like this and you feel like, man, I don't even know what I'm looking at. But if you can dissect it piece by piece, you actually start to realize that it's just painting one big picture. And those pictures are beautiful. Sometimes they suck, but sometimes they're beautiful. And it is going to be extremely interesting to see what happens here. And so my strategy and my game plan going forward from today is to watch this golden zone like a hawk. Over the next couple of days, I'm going to be watching the 109.4 to 107.4 level, closer than you can imagine. Every 30 minutes, every hour, I'm going to be, signing in and looking at what's happening right here, because rejection here, not so great. We're probably coming back down towards the low hundreds. Breakout here, that's pretty good. We might see Bitcoin's price try to run to 120, 115, and then we can obviously start taking some profits off the table. I have considered taking profits off the table from the purchase that I did right here. To be honest, I actually even thought about closing down the entire trade that I made. So the purchase that I made right here, just closing the entire thing now that we're back at the bounce zone. Be honest with you guys, I just don't feel like it. I don't think it's a terrible move. I just don't feel like it. I'd like to see more profits on the table before I start taking profits again. Not just kind of doing that because, again, the taxes and the tax responsibilities, it becomes a little bit annoying whenever you do these microtransactions. And so because of that, I'm not going to be taking any profits off the table right now, but I definitely, if I felt like it, I would. But if we do start rallying up to, 110, 150, and 120, you bet your butt, I'm going to be taking a ton of profit off the table, probably really big sales like I did back here, And as you can see, those sales that we were doing, man, they have been very, very, very strong sales, consistently getting these local tops. And that's how you do it, right? We have been doing a lot of accumulation towards the lows, a lot of taking profits at the highs. And from my macro portfolio as a whole, my average cost on Bitcoin has increased from about $28,000 to about $33,000. But my general position size is increased by multiple dozens of percentages, so I think it's worth it, okay? So remember, all of these buys and sells and all this stuff, it is documented over in the school, so if you do want to see what I'm doing, you can go check out the school. Like, for example, I called out this descending channel over in the school a couple days ago. Now we've broken out of it. I told everyone that I had just did my purchase right around $101,000. Look, this is what the market was doing when I made that purchase. Look where we are now. Right. Look what's happened since that purchase. And I'm not saying that I knew it was going to happen. It was just intuition, I guess. Right. Look where we were whenever I made this purchase. Look at where we are now, right? That was pretty strong timing. And so if you do want to see these things as I do them, feel free to check out the link down below. And also, if you are a trader, you can still get that 10% deposit bonus on BTCC. Guys, that's $10,000 per user, up to $10,000 per user, and up to 40% lower trading fees. Any of you who trade consistently and frequently knows that that is a ridiculously good deal. And so if that is interesting to you, feel free to go check out the link down below. This is where I do about 100% of my trading these days. So if you want to check it out, the link is down there for you. But overall, we are in a very good spot here in the crypto market. I'm very curious to see how this plays out, and I'm honestly not very sure how it's going to play out here. I think my gut is telling me that it doesn't think we're going to push through this golden zone, but I have no reason to believe that. That's purely just a guess, and so I'm just going to kind of let this play out. I'm going to see if we break it or not, and then as we continue to get more developments with this, I'll let you know so you know exactly what my next move is, okay? And so with that in mind, of course, just keep a very close eye on this, and if you guys have been enjoying the channel recently, look, I feel like we've been doing a pretty decent job about keeping you as up to date as possible about what's been happening happening, the pumps and the dumps and all the changes that are happening. So if you have been enjoying it, I appreciate all of you. We did just recently hit 130K subs. So if you want to check out the channel even more, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I appreciate all the love and the support, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.